Welcome to English and Emotions, where love meets language.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to unpack complex ideas, pull out the essential insights, and really help you get informed fast. Today we're tackling something pretty universal but often incredibly difficult. Endings. How do we navigate them, especially when it comes to relationships, romantic ones in particular? How do we do that with grace, with respect, not just for the other person, but, for ourselves too? Our focus today is a deep dive into what we're calling kind breakups, navigating endings with gentle words. We're going to explore the immense value of approaching these really tough conversations with intention. We'll be looking at it from sort of two angles: the compassionate thinking behind it and the actual practical language tools you can use. And here's something that really stopped me in my tracks. I saw the statistic from the mindsjournal.com. Apparently, how to break up was one of the absolute most Googled dating questions.
Wow.
Yeah, think about that. It's not some obscure topic. It's huge. So many people are actively searching for guidance on this.
That is fascinating. It really is.
It just screams, how tough these talks are, how much anxiety they cause, and maybe, just maybe, how much people want to handle them better, even when everything feels like it's falling apart.
It's so telling, isn't it? The sheer volume of people typing how to break up into a search bar. It points to this real gap in our collective emotional toolkit. We have so many rituals, so many societal scripts for how relationships start, first dates, getting engaged, weddings, all of that.
Right, all the beginnings are mapped out.
Exactly. But when it comes to ending one, which is often painful, but let's face it, sometimes necessary, we're kind of left to figure it out on our own, often with pretty messy results for everyone. And the search data, it suggests people aren't okay with that anymore. There's this yearning for a better way, a way to minimize the hurt, maybe preserve some dignity, even when you're separating. It makes you ask, though, why? Why do we find this kind of communication so incredibly difficult, even though it's so important?
Yeah. And that's exactly what we want to get into today. That's the mission of this deep dive. We want to offer you a bit of a shortcut, not just to the phrases themselves, the words that might make it kinder, but also to the thinking behind it, the philosophy that helps you approach it with more clarity, more integrity, and, more compassion. We'll be drawing on relationship insights and specific language strategies to help you feel, informed, definitely, but more than that, hopefully really empowered to handle life's endings when they come up. So, okay, let's start by just acknowledging how much guidance is actually needed here. Because let's be honest, navigating the emotional storm of a breakup, it's almost never simple. It's just inherently difficult, packed with intense feelings for both people involved. Think about the person who has to initiate it, the one saying the words. That takes enormous courage, right? To speak those uncomfortable truths. And there's the weight of knowing you're likely going to cause pain, often a lot of pain. Plus, maybe a heavy dose of guilt for ending something that maybe once felt so full of promise.
It's a huge emotional load.
It is. It takes real emotional strength to walk into that conversation knowing the impact your words are about to have. And you're grappling with that disconnect, right?
Yeah.
Knowing you have to cause pain to someone you cared about, maybe still care about in some way.
Absolutely. And there's that psychological piece, too.
Yeah.
The fear of being seen as the bad guy, even if the decision is genuinely right for you, for your own needs or well-being. It's complex.
Definitely. And then think about the person on the receiving end. The vulnerability there is just immense.
Oh, absolutely. It can feel like an earthquake, a total shock that just reshapes your present, your future, everything in an instant. You've got the immediate heartbreak, obviously, but then there's often confusion, anger, this profound sense of loss.
Yeah, loss of so many things.
Exactly. Not just the person or the relationship itself, but maybe the future you imagine together, the companionship, the daily routine, sometimes even part of your identity that felt tied to being in that partnership.
Yeah.
The emotional processing needed is massive. And how that message is delivered, it can make a huge difference, not just to the initial shock, but to how someone heals afterwards.
So why do these conversations go wrong so often? It can't always be malice, can it?
Rarely, I think.
Yeah.
More often, it's a mix of very human fears. Like you said, the fear of hurting the other person, that can lead to putting it off or being really vague, hoping they'll get the hint, which often just prolongs the agony.
Or just fear of conflict itself.
Yes. Fear of confrontation, anticipating yelling, crying, a big dramatic scene, so you avoid it. Or maybe you just don't have the words. You lack the clear communication tools for something so emotionally charged. And the sheer emotional overload, grief, guilt, anxiety, it can completely hijack your ability to think clearly or act compassionately. You might stumble over words, say the wrong thing, or just shut down entirely.
Leading to things like ghosting.
Exactly. Ghosting is often a symptom of that overwhelm and avoidance, which of course just adds another layer of pain because there's no closure, no explanation, just silence.
Which brings us right back to that fascinating statistic, how to break up. Being a top Google search. It's not just idle curiosity, is it? It feels like a really strong signal. A sign of this widespread societal need for actual practical advice on handling one of life's most painful moments.
A really pivotal experience.
Yeah. And it suggests people aren't satisfied with just winging it or being unintentionally cruel. They seem to genuinely want to do it right, or at least kindly, but they don't have the roadmap.
They sense the gravity of it.
Right. They understand how much it matters, and they're actively looking for a better way, a more empathetic way, a less damaging way, maybe not just for the other person, but for their own conscience, too.
It makes perfect sense. If you connect this to the bigger picture, that statistic really does highlight how we learn so much about communication through experience, often painful trial and error.
Learning the hard way.
Exactly. We pick up habits from movies, maybe from friends, definitely from our own past relationships that didn't end well. But for something with such high stakes, emotionally speaking, like a breakup, people are actively seeking something more effective, something less painful. They don't want to just fumble through it again. Precisely. They want a proactive strategy, not just a reactive mess. Yeah. And I think that signals something important, maybe a kind of growing collective emotional intelligence, a desire to minimize the collateral damage and actually foster healing even when things are ending.
It's like moving from just surviving a breakup to trying to navigate it with some intention.
Well put. Navigating it with purpose.
Okay, so that leads us nicely into digging into the philosophy.
Right.
What does a kind breakup actually mean? Because we need to be really clear here. Kind, in this context, as our source material lays it out, it's not about pretending there's no pain. That's usually impossible. Breakups involve loss, and loss hurts. Period. No magic phrase erases that.
Right. You can't sugarcoat the fundamental reality of it.
Exactly. But what a kind breakup does aim for is minimizing the unnecessary hurt, avoiding the blame game, getting rid of ambiguity. It's about being thoughtful, deliberate, recognizing that even though the romantic part is ending, the other person is still a human being with feelings, deserving of dignity. Their emotional well-being still matters.
It's a commitment to a clean, respectful separation, even when emotions are intense.
So what are the key ingredients then?
Well, the sources really emphasize 3 cornerstones: respect, clarity, and empathy.
Okay. Respect, clarity, empathy. Let's break those down.
Okay. Respect means honoring the person you shared something significant with, even as that connection changes shape. Treating them like a whole person who deserves the truth, not like an obstacle to be sidestepped.
So respecting their time, their feelings, the history you shared, not just dismissing it.
Precisely. Not devaluing the time you spent together. Then clarity. This means being absolutely unequivocally clear that it's over. No wishy-washy hints, no ghosting, no confusing drawn-out talks that just give false hope.
Because ambiguity is cruel in its own way.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It can actually prolong the suffering more than the initial sharp pain. It forces the other person into this awful spiral of wondering, replaying things, searching for clues that aren't there. A clear boundary, even if it hurts up front, allows the processing to actually begin.
Okay. And the third one, empathy.
Empathy, which means trying to understand as best you can where the other person is coming from emotionally, even if you can't feel exactly what they feel. It's about delivering the hard news with consideration. And that really contrasts with things like ghosting, which offers zero explanation, or angry accusations that just escalate everything, or those endless, vague conversations that just drag out the pain and offer no real closure.
Right. And what's really compelling, you mentioned this earlier, is that this kindness isn't just altruistic. It has benefits for both people. It's not just about being nice. It's effective.
Yeah.
It helps both people move forward, even with the hurt. So for the person being broken up with, that kindness, the respect and clarity, it gives them dignity. It offers a chance for real closure. They get a clear message. Yes, it's painful, undeniably, but it stops the endless wondering, the mental replays searching for meaning, that feeling of being completely dismissed.
It validates their reality in a way.
Yes. And that clarity, delivered respectfully, can genuinely help their healing. It affirms their value as a person, even if the relationship isn't working, which is so important for self-esteem at that moment. It provides a foundation for grief instead of just this lingering wound of confusion and disrespect.
And for the person doing the breaking up, The benefits are just as significant, maybe even more focused on their own long-term well-being. Kindness lets them maintain their integrity. It vastly reduces that heavy load of guilt and shame that often comes with ending things badly.
Right. You feel better about how you handled it.
You do. By approaching it thoughtfully, honestly, compassionately, you're actually practicing healthier emotional patterns, patterns that will serve you in future relationships. This whole process becomes a powerful lesson in your own emotional intelligence, your ability to handle tough stuff with maturity. It builds your resilience.
So it's like an investment in your future self.
In a very real way, yes. By showing you can handle difficult endings gracefully, you build a stronger foundation for all kinds of interactions. You learn to communicate your needs, set boundaries effectively, without resorting to avoidance or aggression. It's fundamentally about your own long-term psychological health.
It really is about setting everyone up for a better future, even if that future is separate, which leads us right to the language, the actual words. Because words, wow, they are such powerful tools, aren't they? Especially here. In a breakup, every single word feels amplified. It carries so much weight.
Absolutely. They can pour salt in the wound, or they can act as a kind of balm.
Yeah. They can escalate pain, create lasting scars, or they can actually help with understanding and eventually healing. The specific choices you make, they literally shape the story of the ending.
The narratives of the breakup.
Exactly. How both people remember it, how they process it, maybe even how they approach their next relationship. A harsh word or a vague one can just echo for years, but a gentle, clear phrase, it might provide the bedrock for acceptance, maybe even peace. Eventually.
The precision needed is immense, because when emotions are that high, we're incredibly sensitive to nuance, to subtext, to tone. Every little thing matters.
So the words become like anchors?
That's a great way to put it. Anchors in a very stormy sea. They can either drag someone down further or offer a lifeline to something stable. One poorly chosen word can spark defensiveness, lead to misunderstanding, deepen the hurt. But carefully chosen words, polite phrasing, that can soften the impact, communicate respect even in the middle of this difficult thing, and convey sincerity. It's about carefully building a narrative that allows for a dignified exit for both people, honoring the truth, but with as much kindness as possible.
Okay, so let's get practical. Let's talk about the language itself. The source material highlights a couple of core phrases that seem simple but are quite potent. Break up and move on. Let's start with break up. It sounds blunt, maybe, but its power is in its directness, its clarity, right?
Absolutely. When used kindly, it provides that crucial, unambiguous signal. It states the reality clearly. No room for misinterpretation.
Which is so different from vague stuff like, I just need some space right now, or things are complicated.
Right? Those phrases, while maybe intended to soften the blow, often just prolong the suffering. They dangle false hope or leave the other person stuck in this agonizing limbo of uncertainty.
So directness, delivered with compassion, is actually kinder in the long run.
I strongly believe so. It allows the other person to start processing immediately, to begin healing. Rather than wasting emotional energy trying to decipher mixed signals, that clear breakup establishes the boundary. It says, the relationship, as we knew it, is over. Painful? Yes, but clear.
Okay. And then move on. What's the significance there?
Move on carries this important implicit message. It looks towards the future. It suggests healing, personal growth. It subtly shifts the focus away from just the ending towards the possibility of a new beginning, even if that feels completely impossible in the moment.
Right, like acknowledging the pain, but also pointing towards eventual recovery.
Exactly. It acknowledges that both people need to process this, learn from it, and eventually find themselves again outside of the relationship that's ending. It's forward-looking. It offers that tiny glimmer of hope, perhaps, that life does continue, even if it's changed.
So thinking about those two phrases, they're like signposts, aren't they?
Vital signposts.
They clearly mark the end of the road for the relationship, breakup, but also point towards a future direction, move on. No ambiguity about the status, but a compassionate outlook for what comes next, for both people.
Yes, laying the groundwork for acceptance and healing, minimizing that lingering confusion or resentment.
Now, the material we looked at doesn't just give lists of words. It uses a story, an emotional breakup story, to show how this works in practice, which I found really helpful. For instance, there's this scenario with two characters. Let's call them Maya and Liam. Maya needs to end it. Instead of blaming Liam, like saying, you're just not meeting my needs, or you've changed, the story shows her phrasing it differently. Something like, Liam, I've really valued our time together, and I'll always cherish the connection we had. But I've realized my own path is heading in a different direction now, and I need to follow that for my growth. This isn't about you or anything you did wrong. It's about where I am internally.
That's a perfect illustration of non-blaming language, which is so critical.
Why is that so effective? Let's unpack that.
Look at the phrasing. My own path, my growth, where I am internally. It's all focused on the speaker's internal experience and decision.
It's I statements, not you statements.
Exactly. It doesn't say, you're not good enough or you failed in some way. It simply states her reality, taking full ownership of her feelings and needs. And that shift immediately lowers the defenses of the other person, because they're not being attacked or accused. It stops the conversation from descending into a fight where they feel they have to justify themselves.
It softens the blow without being dishonest.
Precisely. It's still direct, but it avoids those harsh judgments or personal attacks that make breakups so ugly. It preserves Liam's dignity in that incredibly vulnerable moment. It acknowledges the pain, but doesn't add unnecessary insult. It creates space for a conversation that's maybe less destructive, potentially even constructive down the line.
It's such a powerful technique, and it makes you think, this isn't just for breakups, is it? This non-blaming approach?
Not at all. It's applicable everywhere.
Like, instead of saying to a roommate, you always leave dishes in the sink, it's disgusting, you could try, hey, I feel really stressed and kind of overwhelmed when I see dirty dishes pile up in the sink.
Or at work. Instead of you constantly interrupt me in meetings, maybe I find it hard to get my point across when I'm interrupted, and I'd really appreciate the chance to finish my thought.
It's that shift from you did this bad thing to I feel this way when this happens or I need this. It just changes the whole dynamic, doesn't it? Fosters understanding instead of immediate defense.
It really does. It transforms potential accusations into expressions of personal experience and need. That's a fundamental life skill. It pays dividends in every relationship, work, family, friends, everything.
And that really underlines why using that emotional breakup story in the source material is so smart. It's not just a list of do's and don'ts.
Right. It's learning through narrative.
Yeah. It weaves these gentle words and principles into a situation we can actually picture. It gives it context, emotional weight, a framework that makes sense because you see it play out.
It's a fantastic pedagogical tool. The power of anecdote, of story, is huge. It shows how and when to use these words in the messy reality of human feelings. It's not just what to say, but the whole atmosphere.
You internalize it differently through a story.
You do. It engages your empathy, not just your intellect. It creates a much deeper, more lasting understanding than just memorizing phrases. Stories stick with us.
Totally. It makes it feel less like an academic exercise, like reading an audio textbook, and more like learning from experience almost. The relatability makes the advice so much more tangible.
You can see yourself in that situation.
Yeah, you project yourself into it, feel the emotional current, see how the language actually works. It turns abstract ideas into concrete strategies you might actually use. You're not just learning words, you're seeing them in action.
And that preparation, mental and emotional, is invaluable for when you face those moments in your own life.
Which brings us to the really big takeaway, I think. The transformative power of this gentle language approach. Because it's not just about romantic breakups.
Not at all. This is where the real aha moment often lands for people.
These principles, respectful communication, non-blaming language, clear boundaries, empathy, they are critical life skills. They apply to almost any tough conversation or life change.
So what does this mean for you listening right now? It means you haven't just been learning breakup skills. You've been learning deeply impactful life skills. Skills that will serve you everywhere.
Imagine tackling any difficult conversation, work or personal, with this kind of thought, this intention, this kindness. How different could those interactions be?
Think about ending a friendship, for example. A long one that's just naturally faded or grown apart, instead of the awkward ghosting or just letting it fizzle uncomfortably.
You could have a kind, clear conversation using these ideas.
Exactly. Maybe something like, I've really valued our friendship over the years, all the memories we share, but I've been feeling for a while that our lives are heading in different directions. And for my own well-being right now, I need to create a bit more space to focus on my path. It honors the past, states a current need, without assigning blame.
Or leaving a job, right? Instead of complaining or just vanishing.
Use a kind breakup approach, a clear professional resignation. Focus on your growth, not the company's flaws. I've learned so much here, and I'm genuinely grateful for the opportunities. However, I've decided to move on to pursue a role that feels more aligned with my long-term goals. Direct, appreciative, forward-looking. It protects your reputation.
And family stuff, setting boundaries. That's a big one for many people.
Huge. Instead of the explosive argument after weeks of resentment, or that stony silence, try the non-blaming I feel approach. Mom, dad, sibling, I love you, and our relationship is important to me. But for my own peace of mind, I need to set a boundary around specific issue because I feel emotion when that happens. This isn't about blaming you. It's about finding a way for us to connect that feels healthy for me too.
Taking ownership of your feelings and needs.
Yes. Applying these principles when emotions are high and clarity is essential. It empowers you to handle conflict and change without sacrificing your needs or the other person's dignity. This is where that empowerment through education really shines.
And that really is the big aha moment, isn't it? Seeing how this seemingly specific topic, breaking up, kindly unlocks such broad insights into personal growth, into effective communication across the board. This deep dive connects those dots between specific words and universal human needs. Respect, clarity, dignity. It helps you see that every interaction, especially the difficult ones, is a chance to practice emotional intelligence, to build a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. It's not just about conflict management, it's about mastering connection, even when you're disconnecting.
Beautifully put. When you look at the bigger picture, being able to navigate endings gently, it signals a deeper mastery of emotional intelligence, of interpersonal skill. It forces us to think critically about how we build our most vulnerable conversations, the words we pick, the empathy we show, the lines we draw. And the impact of those choices is profound for everyone involved. It's about turning a potentially destructive event into something constructive, or at least less damaging, even with the pain. And that sets a powerful example for all our future interactions.
So there we have it, a deep dive into kind breakups, navigating endings with gentle words. We've looked at how tough endings are universally, but how approaching them with kindness and respect is possible and vital. Intentional language, a compassionate mindset, they're not just nice to haves, they feel essential for a healthier separation. We saw how tools like clear words, break up, move on, and non-blaming phrases, maybe brought to life through story, can really help.
And we really hope this deep dive has given you more than just advice. We hope it's provided a shortcut to some crucial knowledge, some practical skills you can actually use, something that empowers you to handle life's endings with integrity, with empathy, and with a quiet kind of strength.
So as you head back into your day, here's a final thought to carry with you, something to mull over maybe. If we can learn to end relationships, one of the hardest things, with such deliberate care and kindness, how might applying that same intentionality, that same gentle language, transform other areas of our lives? Other places where we face change, transition, even disagreement. How much more graceful, how much more authentic, maybe how much more fulfilling could our lives become if we brought the wisdom of a kind goodbye to all our difficult conversations?